Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS Hockey Report. It is Friday. Happy Friday to everybody out there. I'm riding solo today. No Zach Lang. Got sick last night. Not feeling 100% today. Hopefully, he's floating around in the chat somewhere. But if not, we'll do this solo. Um, we've got Dostal at number one. Is always my favorite. Dostal's number one tonight. Is he number one? Let's see. No, he's not. But we've got a four-game slate on our hands tonight, and it is a pretty good-looking four-game slate tonight. We talked about it a little bit at the end of yesterday's show, and yeah, looks good. Daniil Tarasov expected to get the start for the Florida Panthers. Alex Lyon, there. Dostal at number one is always my favorite on the countdown. Yeah, that makes sense. There's not a lot of good number ones out there. Roberto Luongo, we could probably throw it back to. I was watching the countdown today, and there's a couple guys in there that are on the trade block, so we might have to update that countdown before the end of the season, because yeah, it's getting dicey for some of the guys on that countdown. Robert Thomas is the one that really comes to mind every time I'm watching that countdown before the show starts. But Daniil Tarasov likely to get the start for the Florida Panthers, going to most likely face Alex Lyon for the Buffalo Sabres. The Washington Capitals will go with Logan Thompson. He was really good in his first game back the other night. Kira Schmid gets a start for the Vegas Golden Knights. They're going to have all of their Olympians back in time for tonight's game. Actually, most of them, I think, just stayed in Washington and waited for the team to arrive in Washington. Karel Vejmelka likely to get the start for the Utah Mammoth. Jesper Wallstedt projected to get the start for the Minnesota Wild. He actually finished yesterday's game. Philip Gustafson got sick with like a minute and a half left in that game. Wallstedt projected to start the second half of back-to-back for the Wild. I didn't really play them from a DFS standpoint yesterday. I talked about how I thought it was a tough spot. I did bet them in the betting market. It was nice to see them get a win over the Avs yesterday. I bet them at like plus 135, so that was nice. We'll see how they fare tonight against the Utah Mammoth. The Anaheim Ducks projected to go with number one of the countdown, Lucas Dostal. He beat the Oilers the other night. Likely going to see Connor Hellebuyck for the Winnipeg Jets. I still got his Team USA helmet on there. Got to fix that, but he was obviously outstanding in the Olympics, and I guess that can stick around for one more day. How many gold medal winning goalies are on the slate tonight? Just one. Just one. Let's get into it. We got a number of Olympians actually on tonight's slate. Got Logan Thompson, Akira Schmid, Karel Vejmelka, Jesper Wallstedt, Lucas Dostal, Connor Hellebuyck. I mean, 6 of the 8 goalies on tonight's slate were in the Olympics. Let's get to tonight's slate now. The Florida Panthers 3.1 implied total in a toss-up game on home ice against the Buffalo Sabres. Both teams coming with 3.1. Kind of opposite teams in terms of their 5v5 play. The Panthers a little bit better defensively, not great offensively. The Sabres pretty good offensively, not great defensively. So kind of an interesting game from that standpoint. Also, the special teams really favor the Florida Panthers right now. Much better power play, much better penalty kill. Sabres power play really struggling, but when we take a look at the matchups here, it's the lowest pace game of the night. But the the Sabres top line draws the 100% matchup score. Basically, a really, really hard matching going on by the Florida Panthers. You're going to see a lot of that Lundell line. Now, I feel like the Lundell line's underlying metrics are a bit skewed because they do face the opposition's top lines very frequently. The quality of competition for them this year have been very, very good this year. The one thing that stands out is they don't give up a ton of scoring chances or a ton of volume, but they are really struggling in the high danger areas. And the Sabres top line, they had a pretty good night the other night, but they're not great. They're okay. They don't necessarily generate a ton of high danger looks. So I don't imagine that Buffalo 1 is really going to be like, an absolute smash just because they have the 100% matchup score. They still grade out really well because of that matchup score, 16,800. Not really seeing a lot of ownership coming in on Peyton Krebs, but Tage Thompson, Alex Tuch, both seeing a healthy amount of ownership. Obviously, Daniil Tarasov realistically has not been bad at all this year, right? Like he's had a really nice season, a 56% quality start percentage, 283 goals against average, didn't play great heading into the Olympic break, back-to-back games with 5 goals again. So, I think this is a spot where it's tough to always kind of figure out exactly what Daniil Tarasov's going to get you. I do think the Sabres could get there. And I think that if it's going to happen, it's probably going to be this top line just because of that 100% matchup score. The second line, we talk about them often, really, really good underlying metrics for them offensively, but really disastrous defensive metrics. And they go up against basically the top line all night long. They're going to see a healthy amount of that Rodriguez line, which we actually absolutely nailed that spot yesterday. Evan Rodriguez was great. Reinhart, Verhaeghe were good. 16,400. One of my favorite lines on the slate tonight, yet again. For them, matchup is as good as it's going to get on the Panthers side tonight. They're going to see a lot of that second line for the Sabres, and that Sabres line, as I just mentioned, not very good defensive metrics. So I do think that this Evan Rodriguez, Sam Reinhart, Carter Verhaeghe line, which has very, very good underlying metrics, some of the best you're going to see on tonight's slate, that is probably my favorite spot on the entire in this entire game. Excuse me. Maybe the entire slate. I really like Florida 1 yet again. It worked great last night. They're not expensive at all at 16,400. Really, really interested in this spot overall tonight. Probably it was my favorite spot from the Panthers last night. It's my favorite spot from the Panthers again tonight. I will say this second line with Samoskevich, Bennett, and Matthew Tkachuk, the underlying metrics aren't like, it's not a full sample size. I think the full sample of this trio playing together is only about 55 minutes. The full sample metrics are unbelievably outstanding. It's too small of a sample for me to use for the charts, but if you want to buy into that 55-minute sample, the underlying metrics are spectacular. For them, they're going to see a lot of the third line for the Sabres, which does a really good job defensively. So not the best matchup for Florida 2, but the underlying metrics are just spectacular. I think one thing that's really interesting about the Panthers tonight is Alex Lyon is by far and away projected to be the highest owned goalie on the night. It's for obvious reasons. One, he's only $7,200 in a toss-up game. That obviously feels pretty good. Two, he's projected for the most volume of the night. And just overall, he's projected to be the best goalie in terms of raw projection on the slate. So it's easy to see why he's getting just jammed into lineups at $7,200. And that makes Florida, I think, pretty interesting. Some leverage there against basically 30% of lineups that are going to play Alex Lyon. And it could end up being more than that. So I really like Florida 1. Florida 2, I think I'll sprinkle in. Lindell grades out tremendous yet again. Don't mind a little Marchand Lindell mini stack either. For Buffalo, I think it's mostly going to be that top line for me with that 100% matchup score. I think, the other two lines, not great matchups. And, the underlying metrics of the second line continue to be great, but I think they're going to have a lot of trouble against that Rodriguez line. Maybe you sprinkle in a little bit of Norris and Doan. They're very cheap. I think that you could probably get there. The problem is the Buffalo Sabres power play is just in a really, really tough spot tonight. So, I want to buy in on the Sabres here. I just think it's a tough spot. Tarasov obviously is the kind of skeleton key that if he has an off night, which he's prone to, Buffalo is going to be a strong play, but I lean towards the Florida Panthers. I talked about it yesterday. This is a team that really needs to stockpile some wins here down the stretch, and I think this is a good opportunity for them to do so. I think you get some leverage against basically 30% of the field here, playing Alex Lyon. So I really like Florida 1, Florida 2, sprinkling them in, Florida 3, sprinkling them in as well. But I'm going to come in over the field here on Florida 1 for sure. Let's get to the chat here. Am I dumb for looking at Tarasov's numbers and thinking this is an under game? No, I kind of feel somewhat similar. I don't know if I'm going to bet the under here, but I think it has the possibility to be a little bit lower scoring. I said that yesterday about Carolina and Tampa Bay, though. Look at what happened there. So the Panthers will win 10 in a row. Yeah, Panthers are going to get hot here. If I had listened about Rodriguez last night, yeah. He was spectacular. And I hope he is again tonight. Great show. Thank you so much, Big Red. Appreciate you coming in. Nice to see the chat working again. I was I'm like, man, did nobody miss us during the break? Because the chat was dead the other day, and then I got some complaints afterwards that the chat was broken. So that was a YouTube issue, not a me issue. Okay, the Washington Capitals will host the Vegas Golden Knights. The lowest implied total of the night, 3.0, for the home favorite Washington Capitals, who will get what's his name back? Tom Wilson. Tom Wilson back tonight. So Capitals team that's really struggled defensively. The penalty kill has been pretty good though. Basically, I've had a hard time with the Vegas Golden Knights this year, but they're going to get everybody back tonight. So this is what their lineup is going to look like tonight. So you're going to have Barbashev with Eichel and Stone. You're going to have Dorofeyev with Marner and Smith, and then Bowman, Hurdle, Kolasar on that third line. I played Rodriguez last night. Is he in a good matchup tonight? Yes, I think he's in a great spot again this evening. I love that top line. Let's get to the matchups for this Washington Vegas game. Not great on the Washington Capital side of things. Obviously, the Vegas Golden Knights play pretty well defensively. Really good matchups across the board for Vegas, as I mentioned off the top here. This is a Capitals team that is struggling to defend at 5v5. So, kind of an interesting spot here because, like, obviously, the Capitals not grading out with very good defensive metrics for any of these lines 1 through 3. But obviously, Logan Thompson is a stud between the pipes. Offensively, the underlying metrics continue to be underwhelming for this Vegas Golden Knights team. And I've had a hard time figuring out when and who to play from Vegas this year. If you just kind of look at the charts, it says to play the top line here tonight. Not seeing a lot of ownership in this game at all, which I think is pretty interesting. It does lowest pace, lowest total of the night, so it makes sense. But I do think there's some interesting spots in this game. The one issue I have with Vegas one is it's not the best spot overall, and they feel very expensive. The thing is, like, if Thompson is just slightly off, which he was great the other night, he's seen a lot of ownership tonight. With as much as the Capitals struggle to defend, I think that the Vegas Golden Knights are a pretty interesting contrarian option tonight. It's probably going to be mostly this top line for me, just because they're the only one with really any decent underlying metrics. Like, this Marner Dorofeyev combinations not worked when Tomas Hertl's not on that line. When it's Hertl, Marner on the wing with Dorofeyev, they've been great. With Marner down the middle, it just hasn't really worked. Don't really care about playing Hertl, Bowman, and Colasar. So it's probably just going to, by default, end up being Vegas 1. That being said, it's a pretty good power play matchup here for Vegas tonight. They're one of the better power plays in the league. You've also got a Capitals team that, they do pretty well on the kill, but they're pretty undisciplined. So I think Vegas' power play, which is not updated on the site, that is super my bad, is in a good spot. So that power play is likely going to be Eichel, Stone, Marner, Hertl, and Dorofeyev, the 5 forwards, most likely going to be on that top power play. So I'm going to get that cleaned up, because obviously Vegas would project better in terms of their power play chances here. So that's my bad on the power plays there. But it's going to be that 5 forward power play. Stone, Eichel, once again, going to be kind of the biggest beneficiaries. I think that's the one saving grace for Marner and Dorofeyev is that they're going to have a pretty good power play matchup tonight. On the Washington Capitals side of things, I played a lot of the second line with McMichael, Dubois, Wilson. I think it's a really, interesting. It wasn't Wilson the other day; it was Leonard. But I think it's an interesting, cheap option just because their underlying metrics are so good. With Akira Schmid getting the start, I don't mind getting to some Washington tonight. And if it is going to be, it's going to be through that second line. 13,800. I think they're one of the better value options on the night. They're not getting a lot of ownership. They are super, super good at 5v5. The problem with Washington, they kind of roll 4 lines. That none of these lines get a ton of playing time, but I think that if any line is going to see a healthy dose of usage tonight, is probably going to be this second line. They have the worst matchup overall, though. They're going to see a ton of that Eichel line, which is just super good. So I don't have a ton of interest in the Washington side of things. Not a ton of interest in this game, really. But if I'm going to play it, it's probably going to be Vegas power play, Vegas 1, and Washington 2. Who has Marner worked with this year? Honestly, that Hertl, Dorofeyev, Marner line were fantastic when they're together. The problem is when William Karlsson got hurt, they had to shift Marner to the middle. It just hasn't really worked that great. Low total with Schmid and Lindgren in net. It's going to be Thompson in net. Hey, Brock, San Jose suckered me last night. Obviously, I think the 5 shot on goal bonus for Sherwood was a nice one. Like, I ended up with a lot more Sherwood than I did Celebrini, which kind of worked out. But last night was just kind of blah. Some good spots, some not great spots overall. Utah and Minnesota. Talked about it yesterday with the Wild still struggling to defend. So I do think that the Mammoth will have a nice 5v5 advantage tonight, especially, traveling on a back-to-back here for the Wild. The problem is the Mammoth always seem to be somewhat kind of just limited to not having because their power play is not great. So they're kind of limited to scoring at 5v5. And tonight it's funny because the Raw team ratings have the Wild very good, very bad defensively, excuse me. But then when you take a look at their like new line combinations, they're just like they're not bad, they're okay. Um, but man, like I love this top line for the Utah Mammoth. They just continue to be fantastic, and the underlying metrics are really good for them. So I'm going to certainly get to them tonight, a healthy dose of them tonight, and they grade out third best for us. They have a lot of ownership coming their way, so they're not, unpopular. That's for sure. They're super cheap at 16,100. It's so easy to get there. So I love them again tonight. Minnesota one grades out second best for us tonight, 19,300. Now they're not seeing much ownership. Now, obviously matchup wise, it looks okay, and the underlying metrics for them continue to be very good. Same thing goes for that second line. I think the second line, matchup wise, it's almost identical. They're going to see a lot of top six, going to be a lot of top six against top six, a lot of bottom six against bottom six. So matchups are going to be pretty similar. Minnesota two grades out right behind. Eriksson Ek, Boldy. Boldy is just still one of the best most underappreciated players in the league. $7,700. Eriksson Ek just $5,900. They, to me, feel like the better play than Minnesota one. Like, yeah, obviously Kaprizov's a stud, and this top line can certainly produce big numbers, but there's just no ownership coming in on Minnesota two tonight, and that's the line that I think value wise looks better. Getting to Eriksson Ek and Boldy as a mini stack feels fantastic tonight. So I have a lot of interest in this game. I'm even going to dip down to the second line of the Utah Mammoth. The problem there is that they're drawing a significant amount of ownership, but they're so cheap. Like Cooley 4,700. I used 4,900 the other day, and I said this is the cheapest that he's going to be, and then he went down $200. Gunther had two goals in that game the other night. He was great. McBain. The underlying metrics though for this line are just kind of okay. They're not spectacular. The matchup again is just kind of okay. But with the Wild on the second half of back-to-back with Wallstead between the pipes, Wallstead I feel like he hasn't played much recently. I feel like he hasn't played well recently, but it's been so long since we've kind of seen anybody. His last two starts were really good before the Olympic break. Prior to that, though, he was struggling a little bit. Has he played Utah this year? He has not. Have these two teams met this year? Let's take a look-see. Minnesota, they have, and it was way back, ninth game of the season for the Utah Mammoth. They destroyed the Wild 6-2 in that game. It looks like Logan Cooley, 2 goals, 1 assist for Cooley. Schmaltz had 2 goals. Sergachev had 2 assists. Peterka had a goal. Gunther had an assist. 5 shots on goal. 6 shots on goal for Schmaltz. 5 shots on goal for Cooley. So yeah, I think that there's reason to get to them again tonight. But I really do think that this is a fun game. And I think that Minnesota 2 is just getting super overlooked this evening. Their price tag super affordable. Really like getting to some Eriksson Ek. Really like getting to some Boldy. Don't mind Minnesota 1 either. A lot of ownership coming in on Utah 3. They're just, they don't do a ton. 5v5. They're very good defensively. So basically, Minnesota 3 is kind of a weird matchup. Like Minnesota 3 is not something you're going to play anyway. They're a total write-off tonight in that matchup. Power play in this one is number 1 power play advantage for the Minnesota Wild as well. Very good power play going up against a very bad penalty kill. And that's what really boosts basically everybody in that top 6. But another reason, Eriksson Ek, Boldy, Hughes, great stack. Zuccarello, Kaprizov, Hughes, great stack. Love getting to the Minnesota power play tonight. Both that top 6 lines are firmly in play tonight. Wild will smoke them. I don't know about that. I think it's gonna be a good hockey game. I really like the Mammoth. But yeah, the Wild are rolling right now. So it's certainly possible. Maybe Boldy will be good play coming off back-to-back 50-point games in between Olympic break. Maybe Boldy will be a good play coming off back-to-back 50-point games. Yeah, he's just been unbelievable. I think he's one of the most underappreciated players in the league. Askarov makes 25 saves to sinks my wall over 27. Need Askarov to go 25.5. Ooh, that's brutal. Don't fade Tarasenko. I mean, it just looks like an awful spot for Minnesota 3 tonight. Just a brutal spot up against basically 60% of the ice time up against Utah 3, which has been fantastic defensively. I'm fading Tarasenko and Minnesota 3 tonight. Anaheim and Winnipeg, another fun hockey game. Obviously, Connor Hellebuck between the pipes can be interesting to see how he hasn't had the greatest year, right? And then he goes to the Olympics. He's like, oh yeah, remember me? I am just the best that there is. But yeah, prior to that, 900 save percentage on the season. Before the Olympic break, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutive games with 4+ goals against. Has not faced the Ducks yet this season, though. Ducks are small home favorites here, 3.3 implied total. It's a weird hockey game. I feel like it's gonna be lower scoring, but like I also don't like Dostal and Hellebuyck are both great. Like I feel like it could be lower scoring, but I don't. Every time I say that, it doesn't seem to work. Winnipeg won really high owned again tonight. I don't know why you wouldn't play them. They look like they're in a great spot. They have a 100% 5v5 matchup score. Sorry, 5v5 score, which is just like basically their offensive metric versus the defense metrics. They have a really solid matchup. They're going to see a lot of the Leo Carlson line, which isn't bad defensively. Yeah, it is actually. I'm a liar. That line's bad. They're going to see basically 50% of the ice time against the bottom six, which is good defensively. I won't be surprised to see a little bit more of Carlson tonight. I think that's a matchup they can obviously win. They just play a shitload. The problem with the Jets is everything's so consolidated at one line. Like nobody else in this team really gets ownership except for the Perfetti because none of the other lines score. They're awful. So yeah, I play Winnipeg one when Winnipeg's in a good spot, which is tonight. I think if they see a healthy dose of this top six, they're going to be in a good spot. They're going to take advantage. The Winnipeg Jets power play has just been kind of meh. But they do draw a really nice matchup tonight as well. So just another reason why Winnipeg 1 is in a great spot, both at 5v5 and on the power play. High ownership. Don't mind playing Dostal as kind of a chalk busting spot here at $7,900. He has the second highest implied win percentage on the slate. So yeah, I don't mind getting to Dostal and busting some of that chalk, which we tried to do the other night with Tolopilo. It was a little easier to get to him at $6,500, but I think Dostal in a chalk busting spot, if this game ends up being a little bit lower scoring, great. Connor Hellebuyck, excuse me, at $7,500 though feels great, right? I mean, everything we just saw from him in the Olympics was just insane. Not seeing a ton of ownership, not very expensive, good to see decent volume. I think it's pretty easy to say that the Jets can win this hockey game. And if they do, it's probably going to be because Connor Hellebuyck has a good performance. So one of my favorite goalie plays of the night. I'm surprised he doesn't project better. Obviously, they're underdogs, but I'm surprised he's not seeing more ownership given this matchup. Like Logan Thompson, obviously he's on home ice, but like they feel pretty similar tonight, and you're seeing pretty 5%, 6% more ownership coming in on Thompson, where I think Hellebuyck feels equally as good of a play. For the Ducks, the top line has the best matchup, and I think they're probably my favorite play anyway. I said it the other day, and it worked out well. They are the best offensive line. They have the best matchup. Bit of a cop out, I guess, but like I just don't really see the need to get to a lot of the depth here of the Ducks. It just feels like this top line with Carlson, with Gauthier is kind of the easiest one to click on. Obviously, McTavish and Seneca are fine. The problem is their matchup is much more difficult, right? They're going to see a lot more of that Adam Lowry line, which defends very well. So don't mind sprinkling them in, but a lot more of my interest comes through Carlson, Gauthier. And I feel similar to the field where I like those two as a mini more than anything, but I don't mind Kreider. At least he's come down to 4,500. The power play for them, though, is fourth best. Like, it's okay at generating chances. They just don't convert a lot. The wild PK, or the Jets PK is good. Hellebuyck's obviously a stud. So I don't think I'm going to play a ton of Anaheim tonight. I like the goalies in this game a lot. Dostal is a chalkbuster. Hellebuyck just is a stud. Both teams' top lines feel good overall. From a value standpoint, I don't think there's a ton in this game. There's just not like a matchup that really stands out to me. Winnipeg 2, I guess. Right? Like that McTavish Seneca line has struggled defensively. So like Perfetti, Lowry. We said this with them the other day, though. They had a very similar matchup against San Jose. Was it San Jose? No, Vancouver. Against Vancouver, and they didn't do much. But again, I think that's an okay value option tonight, 11,700, because the matchup is really good, right? They're going to see a ton of McTavish. McTavish line's terrible defensively. Someone recommended this podcast. Cucks, nice. Don't fade Tarasenko. Already did that one. Coach Q going for 1,001 wins tonight. It's a lot of W's. Fun fact: Joel Quenneville's from my hometown. Went to school with his niece. That 2-kid life be hitting our boy, bro. I'm trying, I'm yawning. I'm trying to survive here. But yeah, it's been fun. My son's doing great, and daughter's doing great. It's a lot of sleepless nights though. But that's the first couple months. We'll survive. We'll get through it. But yeah, let's get back to these stacks here. Talk about some of my favorite plays. I feel like there's not a ton of like really expensive lines tonight. So like there's no like obvious really good value options, but there's just a lot of really good like $16,000 lines. Like Utah won 16K, Buffalo won 16K, 17, I guess. Florida won 16K. Like they all feel those three lines feel like three of my favorites tonight. And obviously their expensive lines are good, but really like those lines. Obviously, they're all drawing some ownership. In terms of like who the best low owned lines are, Minnesota 1, Minnesota 2 stand out as really good low owned options. Vegas 1 as well. So those are kind of your get different spots tonight that look good. Like without seeing a lot of ownership. Florida 1 probably my favorite line again overall tonight. Brock's sleep deprived hat trick pick of the night. Give me we might as well do this part. If you want to participate in tonight's hat trick pick challenge, all you got to do is drop your hat trick pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube, not the live chat. Wait till the show's over. Drop your hat trick pick. If your player scores a hat trick, we get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. Pick up some DFO swag. If somebody scores a hat trick that nobody picked, we'll just raffle it off to anybody who submitted a pick. My hat trick pick is give me Matt Boldy. I'm gonna go Matt Boldy. Minnesota 1 low owned. Yeah. So how it looks, not low owned, but lower owned. 5%. It's pretty low. It is the overall the what is this 14th, 15th highest owned line on the slate. Minnesota 2 is the 22nd highest owned line on the slate. So yeah, they're kind of an interesting one tonight. I don't mind getting to Minnesota for sure. Let's get to some defensemen and some goalies. Let's start with the goalies. We're already here. So yeah, Alex Lyon, like I do feel like is in an okay spot. Like at $7,200, the price tag is great. He projects fantastic. I don't love the chalk. Like I think I prefer playing Florida and leveraging Florida against the Lions. Like if Lions truly gonna be 30% owned tonight and Florida lights them up, like I mean the leverage is huge. So I probably won't get to 30% Lion. I don't mind him as a play in non-Florida lineups, but I just think like I would rather just spend the extra $300 for Connor Hellebuck or Logan Thompson for $200 more. So I like him a lot. I like them a lot. Excuse me. Vejmelka's fine, but I just like Minnesota so much tonight. I don't see myself getting to a lot of Vejmelka. Dostal, like I said, that leverage against some of that Winnipeg one chalk is nice. I like him as a leverage option. And probably won't play a lot of Schmid. Probably won't play a lot of Wallstead. Probably won't play much Tarasov. So for me, a lot of Hellebuck, a lot of Thompson, a lot of Dostal, and then some Lyon. That's probably the extent of it. There you go on Boldy. Yeah, I mean, he's a great hat trick pick. What can I say? Let's get to the defenseman tonight. Kind of a weird night on the blue line. There's a lot of like really solid kind of like 5K-ish guys. Like Jackson Lacombe, I think, is a good play. Mikhail Sergachev looks like a good play in that range. Cheap options, like it's kind of the same guys that was the other night. Rasmus Sandin's easily one of my favorites. Whenever John Carlson's out, Rasmus Sandin's an auto click for me. Looked great the other night. Scored a second one. Didn't see much ownership that night. Not projected for much ownership again tonight. I think he's great. Easily one of my favorite D plays at $2,800. DeMello didn't go up where Logan Stanley did, which is good. Like we don't need a 30% owned Logan Stanley. Nobody wants that. So they look good. Uvis Balinskis is another good play again tonight. I like running it back with Florida. I think he's in a good spot. Who are our top power play? So we've got Florida and we've got Minnesota and we've got Vegas. Yeah, like those three guys all look like they're in good spots. So that would be Balinskis, that would be Quinn Hughes, and that would be Shea Theodore. Actually, no, not Shea Theodore. They run 5 forwards on that top power play unit. So Jacob Chipkin, I'm getting to him a lot in my builds early, $6,300. So easy to fit that floor. Obviously, ceiling's great. In terms of the kind of higher owned guys tonight, Sean Dursey projected for a lot. Pavel Mindikov projected for a bunch. Stanley, again, not 30%, but 16%. $3,700. I think it's a little bit harder to get there tonight, but I don't mind it. Like, I just love Rasmus Sandin so much. Solomonson, projected for 21 minutes and minimum price is great as well. Just because they're so banged up on the blue line there for Winnipeg. Samuelson on Buffalo. Yeah, I mean, he's always a fine play for sure. Where do you play DFS? DraftKings. And let's talk about defensemen that do a lot of shit in Zach. Okay, so they're doing a lot of shit defensemen tonight. Here, I'll do it this way. This times 1.5. We'll basically call this a floor rating. Plus this times 1.3. See the doing a lot of shit defensemen tonight in terms of just kind of the floor doing a lot of shit. Defenseman Jacob Trouba, Rasmus Anderson, Jacob Chikrin, kind of the cheaper guys though. Logan Stanley, Owen Power, Braden McNabb, Sean Dursey, Sandberg, DeMello, Sandine, Cole, Faravari, Solomonson, Balinskis, like guys that we've already talked about. Darlene Hughes, Chikrin. Yeah, that's always it's a good place to start. Trouba against his former team with Tryhard. Yeah, I don't mind. I like he leads the doing the shit category tonight. So yeah, $4,900. I think Trouba's always a good floor play. Obviously, he picks up an assist. He's a good play. But yeah, that's pretty much going to do it. Unless anybody has any final questions here before I head out on a Friday. I never even got to open the beer because I don't have Zach to talk while I drink. But yeah, I'll stick around for a couple more minutes if anybody's got any more questions to go over on this Friday edition. Before I go, I guess, shout out to our friends at rotogrinders.com for providing projected ownership for today's show. If you want to get $20 off your first month of Rotogrinders Premium, all you got to do is click the link in the description of the video on YouTube to get that. Let's take a look here. This is me. And you guys. Oh, so here's our description. So yeah, if you want to join the DFO DFS Discord, it's a community that's always growing. You can join that Discord with the link in the video on YouTube. We also have $20 off your first month of Roto Grinders Premium and 20% off of Action Network Premium. You can click the links in the description to get both of those. If you are new to the show and you want access to these charts, we post them in the Discord. So join the Discord. You get access to these charts for free. So join that. And yeah, final questions. How many hours of sleep are you getting a night? 6. It's not been that bad, honestly. My son sleeps a lot better than my daughter did at this age, but yeah, like solid 6 right now is a good night. Your fave stacks are min 2 and who else? My fave stack is probably Florida 1. Min 2 is my favorite, like contrarian play. Like they're just not seeing much ownership. Like 5th best line for us, one of the best power play matchups on the slate. Like Eriksson and Boldy at 5 and 3% feels fantastic tonight. Like yeah, I don't love stacking against Utah. They're very good defensively, but the Avalanche got there the other night. Minnesota just got to Colorado last night, so I think that this Minnesota mini stack is really really solid tonight. Thanks, Roto Grinders. Go ahead and take the weekend, Brock. You got some feedings to do, yes sir. Florida 1 or Utah 1? Probably Florida 1 just because they're lower owned. Like Utah 1 grades out better, and I do think that they probably have a higher ceiling. So if you're looking for just like one lineup, highest ceiling is probably Utah 1. If you're looking for more of a lower owned play, it's Florida 1. But hope that helps. What's your favorite cheap stack? How cheap are we talking? Favorite cheap stack, like Buffalo 2 grades out really well. Who's the best in terms of raw value? Yeah, Buffalo 2 probably. And then honestly, I think Winnipeg 2 is kind of sneaky tonight as well. 3-2-1 build, Florida 1, Vegas 1, Minnesota 1. I don't understand, to be honest with you. Yeah, I miss Zach. Wish he was here. Shout out to him if he's watching. Feel better, buddy. We'll be back. What do we got? Let's take a preview of next week before we go. What do we got coming up next week? Nice. Love. What a week of DFS we got next week. 6 games, 11 games, 5 games, 8 games, 7 games. Beautiful slate of hockey. I love when we don't have like 3, 13, 2, 14. Good stuff. So that's going to do it. Florida 1 with Helly. Good start for DK Cash. Yeah, I would say so. Like, I think that, one thing I never kind of forget to do sometimes is take a look at forward values. We don't do that often. But like Evan Rodriguez is a cash game lock for me tonight. And then Hellebuck feels great. Kyle Connor, good cash game play tonight. Tage looks solid. Velarde, Schmaltz, Keller always fine. Gauthier looks good. Tarasenko grades out well, even though I hate his matchup tonight. Thanks, Brock. Have a great weekend. Thank you guys. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. We'll see you back here on Monday. Have a great weekend. And for any of our listeners that qualified for the Fantasy Hockey World Championship tomorrow, best of luck. I know we got a couple in the Discord that qualified, so hopefully they can bring home the big bucks. See you on Monday. Until then, cheers.